Everyone comfortable? Great. Time. Technology is changing the way we live our lives and the way we do business, and coffee is no exception. And so today, the theme I'd like to explore together is technology's impact on coffee. And we can begin by looking at the customer experience. We can use technology to create more immersive environments, drawing our guests deeper into their journey with coffee, which is why I built this table with its embedded displays will act as a helpful guide to us as we move through our time together. And you'll see on there that your order for today has already come through. We'll start with espressos, then milk drinks, then signature drinks, using 2 different coffees, but for now we can focus in on that first course of espresso, for which I'll be using an exemplary, naturally processed geisha, produced by the Janssen family at Los Alpes in Chiriquí, Panama. Now for me, Panamanian geisha promises tropical fruit, and this cup delivers with a flavor note of pineapple on our espresso course. And it also promises complexity, and complexity when roasting is something I always want to try and preserve. I chose to roast this coffee on the Roast L100 Plus because of its AI-enabled automatic crack detection system, which makes it really easy for me from batch to achieve a uniform development time ratio. And you can see on screen that my target DTR was 14.8%, which I chose because that's where I found the most complex acidity while maintaining structure. And I also chose a relatively short total roast time of 4.5 minutes, extending the glass transition phase and increasing porosity and solubility without sacrificing clarity or texture. Now, if we've managed to source exceptional green coffee and roast it well, of course, we can then brew it and enjoy it. For our espresso course, I'm using a 19-gram dose, a 45-gram yield, and a contact time of 33 seconds. This is a recipe chosen to maximize sweetness while maintaining balance. And as I've been working to brew exceptional espressos over the past 8 years, I've come to realize that one of our biggest challenges in understanding how a coffee peaks. Different roasting machines and different roasting methodologies have big impacts on how a coffee degasses. So I've been working to use technology to create a simple solution to this complex problem, which I'd like to share with you now. Now, when we place roasted coffee inside a sealed container, like you can see on screen, with a CO2 monitor and adjust for some other variables, we can chart the release of carbon dioxide over time, which acts as a useful proxy for degassing. Now, this is kind of interesting and fun to look at, and you can see the degassing chart for this coffee there on the right-hand side. But it becomes particularly valuable when we add in sensory information using our skill and expertise as sensory professionals, which is why my team and I cupped this coffee and 15 others roasted just like it for 3 weeks post-roast every 12 hours. What we found was that flavor intensity peaked between 12 and 36 hours after the CO2 release stabilization point. That's a mathematically defined point at which that degassing curve flattens out, and it's indicated there on screen. This makes it possible for me to bring this coffee or any exceptional coffee to you with this testing at its peak of flavor. So this coffee has been roasted 102 hours ago. And it will deliver the following and all the sensory information you'll see on screen in front of you. Your flavor notes will be yuzu, pineapple, and stewed berries, with an aftertaste of oolong tea. The weight will be medium to low, and the texture will be silky. When served, I'd like you to stir front to back 3 times with one of the spoons provided, and then you can put the U spoon in the green glass in front of you. So far, guests, we've seen the power of technology in creating more immersive experiences for our guests, in roasting more consistently, and understanding how resting roasted coffee affects peak flavor. And after our milk course, which is coming next, we'll examine a couple more applications of technology. I'll give you a minute to evaluate, and then we'll continue to our next course. Time check, please. Okay, there we go. There you are. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. There we go. Thank you very much. Okay, another 30 seconds or so, judges. Okay. Just 10 more seconds and then we'll start our milk course. All right. Now for milk, we're using a different coffee. This time from Calcutta, Colombia, produced by Jairo Argila. This is a Castillo, which has been honey processed and yeast inoculated. And it delivers espressos, which are sweet and juicy. I've roasted it with an 18% development time ratio to maximize solubility, and I'm brewing with a 19-gram dose, a 39-gram yield, and a contact time of 25 seconds, as this is where I've found the most flavor intensity. Each of your single espressos is paired with 45 grams of my chosen milk, as this is where I found these ingredients act together in the most harmonious manner. And that milk is the result of 3 years of experimentation. Back in 2022, my team and I began tasting 196 different coffees for Sia's Espresso, and then in combination with 14 different milk bases. We evaluated, described, and scored each of those drinks in a similar way to how you're doing today, and used that data to train a basic but powerful machine learning model that helped us to understand the optimal milk pairing for any given espresso. So, as you can see on screen, we have an application where we can describe our espresso on the left-hand side, and on the right, in a moment, you'll see my application's recommended milk content. Now, this is an excellent tool for baristas to begin to understand how to craft extraordinary milk drinks. But still, we must act as the sensory professionals, using our skill, experience, and to be honest, common sense to discern whether this is actually a good idea. But in this case, the milk suggested was extraordinary. It's a blend, as you can see on screen. 70% is freeze-distilled minor figures oat milk, and the other 30% is a high-fat Jersey herd's milk. Overall, this brings us a milk which is high in fat, sugar, and protein, helping craft a balanced milk beverage. I've steamed it to 48 degrees Celsius for a drinking temperature of 42 degrees Celsius. And whenever I serve you, that temperature was chosen specifically because after tasting at a wide range of temperatures, I found the most clarity there. Now, after serving, I'd like you to stir in a circular motion with your spoon right to the bottom of the cup 6 times, and then once more you can deposit your spoon in that green glass. You'll find all the sensory information on screen. Please wait until I walk you through before beginning your evaluation. Your flavor notes will be chocolate mousse, apple crumble, and cherry liqueur. Once you've got that down, you can begin evaluation. Thank you. So far, guests, we've seen the power of technology. You can go ahead and begin. Thank you. We've seen the power of technology in crafting more engaging customer experiences, and understanding how resting roasted coffee affects peak flavor potential, and roasting more consistently. Thank you. And in this course, crafting exceptional milk beverages. In our final course, the signature drink, we'll look at one further application of technology before turning to reflect more broadly on its meaning for our industry. But for now, just enjoy. I'll give you about 45 seconds to evaluate, and then we'll come back together. Thank you. Okay, another 15 seconds or so, judges. Okay. Now, for our signature drink, I trained an AI with all of the sensory research and data that I could find. We then worked together to create a new framework for crafting exceptional espresso-based signature drinks. I'd like to share this framework with you using this coffee. It's the Castillo again, same recipe as before, which has been chilling in here. And it's going to deliver us our 3 key pillars of this framework, which you can see on screen. Firstly, aroma. Now, the espresso here has a stewed apple, stone fruit, and floral aroma. Secondly, tactile. And here we're mostly focused on weight, which here, as espresso, is medium. And thirdly, flavor, which here is green apple and some passion fruit. So, first part of our framework was aroma. And here we're looking to transform the underlying of this aroma of the espresso by adding ingredients that actually complement the underlying espresso, rather than just trying to mask it. So I found that plums were an ideal addition because they share the same levels of the key fruit floral monoterpenes as linalool and geraniol as the underlying espresso, like you can see on screen. So I made plum juice by taking 500 grams of fresh plums, blending together for 15 minutes at 50 degrees Celsius with 100 grams of sugar and 10 grams of pectinax, which is an enzyme that breaks down fruit fibers. We then pass that through a paper filter and set it aside. Now, the addition of this ingredient, which I'm going to come to in a minute, modifies the aroma, but since we'll be serving this drink cold, we perceive this as a flavor modulation. And like you can see on screen, it transforms that note of passion fruit into a note of framboise, which is a Belgian lambic beer made with raspberries. Now, as I said, we'll come back to that in a moment because part 2 of tactile actually incorporates this ingredient. You see, depending on the weight of the espresso, the framework that I developed with the AI tells us to do different culinary techniques, like you can see on screen. But when it is medium, we fat wash. Now, fat washing introduces trace lipids, which do 2 things. Firstly, they act as microlubricants, which aid texture, but they also carry through delicate aromatics, which I found was essential for our plum juice. And so I fat washed the plum juice with melted butter. I took 500 grams of the plum juice and combined with 100 grams of brown butter, mix it well, then put it in the freezer. The next morning, I took it out, removed the fat layer that had formed, and passed it through a paper filter. So I'm adding 60 grams of this fat-washed plum juice, which, as I mentioned, modulates that flavor of passion fruit into a new note of framboise. And the third and final part of our framework is flavor. And here we actually want to introduce contrasting flavors. We determine contrasting flavors using another AI-powered tool called flavonomics, which uses sensory science and machine learning to determine lists of contrasting flavors. So I'm able to describe my espresso to it, and it gives me a potential range of combinations. And yet it's still up to me as the human in the loop to use my common sense and sensory skill to discern which was best. And I found that the addition of the juice of preserved lemons, like you can see on screen, 4 grams of it, transformed that note of green apple into a new note of pineapple. And I loved that because it brought synergy right back to the espresso. So we mix all those ingredients together in the hyperchiller, and we simply split into these glasses, thank you, chosen to emphasize texture, along with 60 grams of ice, which brings ideal dilution to maximize flavor clarity, and bring our drinking temperature down to 8 degrees Celsius, where I perceive the most balance. Now, I'd like you to wait until I call time before enjoying. And you can do so by swirling and then taking 2 big sips. But first, let me run you through the flavor notes. They'll be on screen again in just a moment. We'll have framboise, that raspberry lambic beer, orange sorbet, and pineapple. Now, guests, it's been a joy to talk to you about the impact of technology in coffee. I believe that the future of our industry means a combination of sensory skill, technology, and common sense. Thank you. Time.